there's so much to learn about setup and how you can actually just change a few things and see how it makes the handling of the car different.
As we are talking about this, let's have a quick talk about buggies and how to get started into this. We actually had quite a few families coming through over the last few weeks.
Yes.
And trying to get the kids perhaps up and running with the race buggy.
Yep.
So this is a 4-wheel drive. This one is also 4-wheel drive.
You can also get 2-wheel drives.
You can get 2-wheel drive,
yes.
which you have one up here. So
yep.
So that's a 2-wheel drive option. So 4-wheel drive and 2-wheel drive. Main difference is the 2-wheel drive will have the rear wheels driving.
Yes.
Then 4-wheel drive obviously will have all the 4-wheel driving. And apart from that, the components required to get a car ready are very similar.
They are. So you got your advantages and disadvantages, of course. So obviously 2-wheel drive cars will be running together with other 2-wheel drive cars, and 4-wheel drive likewise. Now, a 2-wheel drive is a lot simpler in its engineering design. So you've got one gearbox, and then you have the motor and one pair of driving wheels.
Yes.
So it's a simpler machine, but it's more of a challenge to drive.
Absolutely.
And then you've got your 4-wheel drive, which has got gearboxes on both ends, obviously. So 4 wheels of driving, it's going to have a lot more grip.
Yes.
Downside is it's got a lot more moving parts, so it's a little bit more complex, and they're a little bit slower. So some people race both classes. If you want to just begin, I suggest just do the one class and then expand at a later stage. And then, of course, once you've got a kit like this, you'll need a few other bits and pieces to get it going.
Definitely. So let's get a few things.
Yep.
So you're going to need this.
So you need a controller.
Absolutely.
So when you get these controllers, it'll come with the transmitter, which is your handpiece. They're generally in wheel type configuration now because it's evolved to a point where wheels tend to be easier for most people to control. So it gives you a little bit finer touch with the steering, also with the throttle, because your throttle is controlled with your index finger. And within these sets, you'll normally get a receiver as well. So handpiece is transmitting the signal of your movement. Okay, so if you turned it, it'll beam through this aerial, go to the receiver, which is this little small box, which is mounted inside the car. And then that'll send a signal to the steering servo to move the particular amount that it was told by the transmitter. So likewise with the trigger controls your throttle. So as you squeeze it gives you forward throttle.
Definitely.
And then as you push it forward, that'll give you brakes. So one thing to mention, I guess, when you're racing, you're not allowed to use reverse because reverse can be quite dangerous if you just pull it while there's oncoming cars. So this is usually set for braking. Now, obviously, if you're just practicing and you had a forward and reverse speed control, you could use this part would also be using your reverse. So with the receiver, so we'll get a close-up of the receiver.
Right. So that's what the receiver looks like. So that's your main unit, and this is a receiver with the antenna.
Yep.
Many receivers today don't have an antenna anymore. They have an integrated antenna.
That's right.
I think one in my car does have an integrated antenna, but that's a very important thing. So never chop it or damage it, because if you damage his antenna, you will pretty much damage the product. He won't have the same ability of controlling the car.
Yeah. So they're tuned to the particular length. So once you cut it, you'll lose a lot of range.
Definitely. And as you can see here, you have all the ports for the different channels.
Yes.
You got normally the channel 1, channel 2, which is the most used for steering and
throttle.
So let me see if you can see it. Steering and throttle.
Yes.
And then you may have a third channel, which could control, there's additional buttons in your radio. If a radio is a multi-channel radio, you can control perhaps, could be light switches if you were to use a rock roller or other things.
Yes.
For racing, you won't need that. You normally plug in your transponder in one of these other slots. Yeah, whoops, going out.
So the transponder is the lap counting system. So it's a little box which sends out your own ID. So when you come around the start-finish line, the computer will know how to count.
And this is a low-profile servo, which is going to make your car steer.
Yes.
So this servo will have this type of plug, which is called foot turbo plug, and will plug into your receiver like this.
Yep. So steering is always on channel 1.
Yep. 1 to turn, 2 to burn.
That's it.
So that's a good way to remember it. And here we go. And then the second channel, we'll have the speed controller, which we're going to talk about that in a second.
Yes.
So that's step one.
Yep. Okay, so you got your controller and you got your servo for doing the steering. And then there's a few other electronics that you'll need as well.
You will need a so-called speed controller, or ESC, electronic speed controller, which we have a few different samples. There's many brands of these products.
There are.
They're all very similar at the end.
Yes.
There's preference. There's everything.
So basically what it is a little electronic box. So it reads the signal again like the steering. So it'll read the throttle movement, and depending on which percentage of your throttle movement, it'll control how much power to deliver to the motor from the battery. So you've got
that's this little device here.
Speed controller.
And let me pull out the motor as well.
Yep.
So speed controllers have different ratings as well.
Yes. I guess
the amperage they can deliver. So they go from say a 50 amp, which is a good little entry-level speed controller for stock racing or for junior racing.
Yes.
This is well packed actually. Doesn't come out. And then you go all the way up to 120, 150 amps for a bit more modified.
Yeah. So
racing.
if you're not aware, there's different classes as well. So as well as the two-wheel drive and four-wheel drive type classes, within those there'll be different motor power classes, just to keep everything even.
Yes.
So you've got your stock classes, you've got your modified classes. So that's modified is the very top. Yes. Stock is in the middle, and then you may have some junior classes, or intermediate classes. Yeah, depending on the clubs.
Generally speaking, modified is open, so you can run any motor or kind of within some obviously regulation. But as for number of turns in your motor, you can run anything. When you start going stock, is where the motors are limited.
Yes.
So at the moment in two-wheel drive stock, you run a 17.5 turn motor.
Yes.
And in four-wheel drive, you run a 13.5 motor, which is a bit quicker actually. Yep. Four-wheel drive can handle a bit more speed because it's got more grip. Yes. So a couple of years ago, they switched from 17.5 to 13.5 in stock, and it was actually really good fun.
Yep.
Bit more speed, and bit more crushing. So let's have a look at the speed controller. So that's what we call a speed controller.
Yes.
So where are we? So here you're gonna have all your connections. So you'll have two connections going to the battery.
Yes. So positive and negative.
Positive and negative.
Yep.
So red and black, and then you'll have three phases that go onto your motor here. So there'll be a connection going from each one of these into each one of those. You have to follow the lettering that is all marked down here to go in the right tab here.
Yep. So A goes to A, B goes to B, C goes to C. Yep.
Absolutely. And then there is another connection, which is a sensor cable.
Yes.
That will go from this port here.
Yes. To
the back port of the motor here.
Yes.
And that's again to improve, to simplify this, is to improve the feel and the control, specifically a lower speed, I believe.
Yes.
And that will give a much better acceleration.
Yes. Much smoother and much more responsive.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's your motor and speed controller here.
Yep.
And finally, you need a battery.
Yes.
In two and four-wheel drive, we run what we call shorty, which is a bit of a shorter version compared to the traditional battery that we have seen on most of our C car, like even the Tamiya Hornet for say.
Yes.
They run a traditional stick pack, and so this is a bit shorter.
Yep.
And that was done to improve the weight distribution on these cars.
Yes.
And again, that's a little shorty battery.
Yeah.
They come in different capacities.
Yep.
Anything from say 3,500 milliampere, very very thin and small, all the way to say 6,000, 6,200.
Yep.
Bit heavier, which is going to give a bit more runtime, but also a bit more weight, which is always a very important factor. And that's your battery here.
Yep. So and then I guess the other thing you'll need would be a charger to charge the battery.
Yes.
And then there'll be a few little bits and pieces.
Some tools.
Yeah.
Some pinions.
Tools. Yeah, that's right. Pinions for gearing, because you want to find the right setup for the gearing, and that can vary depending on the day too. It's got to do with the grip level of the track.
So here, let's jump on the side again. Is everything? Let's see if you can see. Here we go. Everything together. So going from the front here, that's your steering servo on this side here.
Yep.
The red one here is a transponder for the lap time. It is actually a bit of an older version.
Yep.
They're a bit smaller now. Then moving on this side here, that's your electronic speed controller.
Yep.
That, as we said, connects to the motor at the back here. Here we go.
Yep.
And then again from the speed controller, you got your two positive and negative connection. They go to the battery, so the battery sits in here at the back.
Yep.
And to finish, we have the receiver up here.
Yep.
For
So that's one of those
antenna-less.
yes, that's right.
See, here we go.
So it's got a little
receiver.
Yeah, a little upright there. It's all inside the casing.
Yeah,
Gives it very neat.
absolutely. So this is how a four-wheel drive buggy looks like.
Yeah.
Obviously, there's other things you may need. Wheels, obviously, wheels and tires. That's a very important tuning factor.
Yes.
So there's different type of compounds, softer and harder, based on the condition of the track.
That's right.
Different tread patterns. So again, if it's dusty or if it's high grip, you tend to run different type of patterns.
A few different shock oils.
And most importantly, the color of the wheels.
Oh, that makes it or breaks it.
Some can only drive in yellow wheels, and some can only drive in white.
If you're really different, you make them black.
You make it in back, then you can't see the car anymore. So let's see. Let's see if you can get in the comments your preference on the color of the wheels. I know that's always a deal breaker.
Yes.
You can't use, if you're on yellow wheels, you cannot go white. What else? Wing. The wing is also another tuning factor.
It is. Yeah.
So you can,
depending on the amount you cut it down.
yeah, there's different type of wings, a couple of different profiles that you can cut. You can choose.
Yep.
Here we go. Simon already voting for the yellow wheels. I know that because these are actually your wheels. Strangely. And what else can we say about this?
Well, I guess we're going to have a closer look at the design of a racing car compared to, say, a hobby car. So the biggest difference is, so they need to be designed to fit within some basic rules. There's weight rules and dimensional rules. Once they fit within there, then the important factor is to get adjustability within the design of the car. So, because the cars are being used in all different surfaces, circumstances, so you want to be able to make it tunable to any one of those. And so the suspension is very tunable. The camber is adjustable, so that's the angle of the wheels. You can adjust the caster as well, which is actually the angle of the wheels in this direction as it rotates.
So you normally adjust that by changing, let me see, this kind of component here.
Yeah, so you either C-hub or some of them have inserts
as well
for changing the angles very finely.
Yeah. So camber link is this one here. So with this turnbuckle here, you can shorten it or extend it to change the angle of the wheel. It can go a bit, you can open it up a bit or closer. So you change your camber.
Also suspension blocks, which will change the overall angle of the suspension arms.
Yeah.
So that changes the roll center of the suspension.
Yeah.
So you can make the car roll more in cornering or roll less.
This do sit in here. So
yep.
This is called front suspension mount, and they will contain a little pillow, so they call, or little block.
Yes.
That pretty much hosts the. Let's see if you probably can see from this side in here. You'll have a hinge pin going here, and this pillow is going to have a hole in a specific position, which is going to determine the angle of the. How do you explain this? Of the arm, so this can go
so
more in a direction or in another.
Kick up, or you got semi-trailing, so it changes, and also you can change the track width as well and fine adjustments.
Yeah, absolutely. And pretty much the same goes in the rear end.
Yes.
So you'll have your camber link.
Yep.
And then you can adjust your camber position, so you can raise it all over it, and then again we change the roll center of the car.
Yes.
And from here you can see these pillows a lot better actually.
Yep.
And by changing the position of let's see if you can see, there's a
small so you can roll them around. So there'll be 4 different settings available in there. Yeah, 4 different holes.
Quite a few different settings here. Yeah. And as you move them, you adjust the. It's a minor adjustment, but the difference is actually quite substantial as you drive your car.
Yes.
As you can see, there is also sway bar, so that's another very important component.
Yes.
That you can adjust.
Yes, and then shocks, of course.
Shocks are a very important component.
Different shock oils,
and shock
springs, and the angle as well.
And the pistons and the angles. So you see on your shock tower here, probably the front actually, we can see it better. Here you got multiple holes, so you can change the angle of your suspensions.
Yep.
So lots of tunability. And as we were saying before, that's you have the front differential here.
Yep.
And again, the differential can be tuned by changing. There's a gear differential, so you can put different oil.
Yes.
And so we'll produce a different type of effect. Then you have a center differential, and sometimes you can have a so-called slipper clutch, which is a bit of a different concept.
Yep.
And then here you find a rear differential.
Yes.
Which is different again.
Yes.
So
that's one of the good things, I think, and the interesting things about racing, because there's so much to learn about setup and how you can actually just change a few things and see how it makes the handling of the car different and suit different situations.
So someone is suggesting that a legal racing weight of a two-wheel drive is 1.5 kilos.
Right.
But on a four-wheel drive, which is this one here, is 1.6 kilos.
Yes.
So, there's always a trade-off between being really light and nimble and having a bit more weight for stability.
Yes.
So in stock, you tend to be really light because you're going to optimize the use of the speed that you can generate with that specific motor. But when you run mod, often you want a bit more weight to have a bit more stability.
Yes.
So, and as for wheels, I think we got pink and purple.
Pink and
That's
purple.
a good option. Yeah.
Different.
There's a couple of options. Obviously, yellow. I think yellow is always a winner.
It is very easy to see.
It's much easier to see. And if you put black wheels, it's going to be really difficult to see them.
It's stealth.
It's actually quite interesting as you drive. It makes a big difference having bright wheels.
Yes.
It's a lot easier to understand how the car is behaving on the track, perhaps. So, and I think that sums up your getting into racing kind of brief.
Yes. So, of course, if you ever need any help getting into racing, just pop in and we'll be able to give you a rundown on what may suit you best, any particular budget, and which particular class would suit you as well. And also the various clubs around.
I would say so, yeah. So if you pop in at the clubs up in Kilo Park, for example, you go down on a Saturday, I would say 99% of the time there'll be somebody there.
Yes.
And it's always a good thing to go there. You have a bit of a feel, you have a look and you talk to a few people.
Yep.
Often you can pick up a second-hand kit as well, which could be quite good for a start. So if you just are coming into the sport, we always upgrade kits. So we often sell second-hand kits. So that could be a good way to get a taste of the sport, really.
Yes.
Are competitors allowed to have, say, LED lined bodies to really make their stand out, or is that actually against the rules?
That's against the rules.
Yes.
Yes. So it's quite specific on what additions you can put on. And even though that's probably going to hinder your performance and make it look really pretty, it's not allowed, just to keep it all even.
There's some specific rules on the body shells, actually. So the windows must be clear.
Yes.
It's compulsory. And also when you have openings, there's some regulation on the opening you can have. Because the opening is often done for cooling purposes.
Yes.
And obviously, if you can cool your motor or your speed controller more, you can actually put more power to them and go a bit faster. So there's some rules on what you can and can't do on your body shells. So it's all documented. It's not very difficult, but there's some guidelines that need to be followed actually.
Yep.
So
it's all a lot of fun.
Absolutely. So hopefully during the Christmas break we can have a bit of a go again.